So I got an itch yesterday to do something that I've not done yet in my garage gym, and that is lat pull downs. So I don't have a lat pull down machine, and I don't have a lat pull down attachment for my rack, and I really didn't feel like spending a whole bunch of money for one of those things. And in this video, I'm gonna show you what I came up with that cost me less than 20 bucks to be able to knock out some lat pull downs. So as I started thinking through how I was going to build this and what I was going to need, the first thing I thought of was obviously I'm going to need some type of cable. And so what I came up with is this Ozark Trail. It's an 1100 paracord. It has an 1100 pound working capacity, and I don't see myself doing lat pull downs with more than 1,000 pounds anytime soon. So I figured that would do the job right there for my cable. The second thing I was going to need is some type of a pulley for the cord to be able to roll through. And what I ended up picking up is this 1.5 inch pulley. I got it for Lowe's. The paracord, by the way, cost me about $8. This pulley cost me about $7. And so now I've got a cord and I've got a pulley. Now I got to figure out how am I going to attach these things to the actual rack itself. And my first thought was I was going to get an eye bolt and attach it and run it through the side of the rack, and then hang the pulley off the eye bolt, probably with a C-clamp, run the cord down, and then use the side of the rack for lat pull downs and even some tricep push downs, which I was also pretty fired up about. And then when I run the cord down, my thought was I was just gonna take a C-clamp, run it through the hole of some weight plates, attach it to the cord itself, and then just use that as my weight to be able to do my lat pull downs. But when I started thinking about it, you've got the beam down here, the support beam at the bottom of the rack, and it's going to be so close to the rack with that single pulley, the weights are going to be banging and potentially getting caught on this beam right here. And I thought, okay, well, that's probably going to be a no-go. So then I thought, okay, well, I know Titan has lat pull down attachments for their rack. I guess I should probably go ahead and go on and see what theirs looks like. How do they do it? So basically, if you've not seen theirs, how they do it is they've got a pulley on one side, they've got a pulley on the other side with a longer beam that kind of comes out to the center of the rack. And basically the pulley runs from one pulley to the center pulley, and then that comes down, so the weight's in the middle, and then you've got your attachment whatever here on the other side. So two things. One, by the time that I bought some type of an eye bolt here, some type of an eye bolt here, some type of lever, pulley on both sides, I'm going to be spending the amount of money where it would just make sense just to buy the actual attachment. Plus, the actual attachment is obviously going to look a lot better than whatever DIY thing that I come up with. I was more interested in how can I make this cheap and how can I make just the minimum viable product to be able to do what I need to do. And so I thought, okay, well, how can I use the front of the rack? So obviously then I could stay away from the support beams. And then it hit me. Lifting straps. I have an insane amount of lifting straps. I've got probably at least a dozen pairs. Some people collect shoes. For some reason, I collect lifting straps. If I could take a lifting strap, which is super durable, super rugged, super thick, take this lifting strap from Spud Inc., and I loop it around the top of the rack, now I can take a C-clamp, run the C-clamp through, attach the pulley to the C-clamp, and now I've got plenty of space to be able to do whatever it is that I want to do, whether it's lat pull downs, tricep push downs, whatever. So this part of the setup basically just looks like this. Take your closed loop strap, loop it around, take your C-clamp, run it through, okay, and then take your pulley and pop that through that side right there. Okay, so quick tip that might help somebody out there. When you go to cut your paracord, if you take a piece of black duct tape, right, again, this is a piece of black Gorilla Tape. If you take that piece of tape and you roll it around the cord, when you go to cut it, that will keep the cord from splaying and unraveling all over the place. So there you go. So instead of that all coming apart and unraveling all over the place, that little piece of duct tape, all right, will keep that all in place. Then you can take a lighter. You can actually burn, singe the edges or the end, all right, and that'll keep it also from unraveling even more. So as far as the length of cord goes, all right, to give you some context, I've got a Titan T3 rack. It's the 91-inch rack, so it's the taller of the two T3 racks. So I've cut my cord to be 9 foot long, all right? And the reason I've gone with 9 foot is I want to give myself enough cord so once I loop it through and bring it down, I want to be able to run it through a plate or even multiple plates, and even I'm going to use probably my fat bumpers, all right, my cheaper bumpers to use for this purpose. So I want enough room to where that cord's going to be able to loop through the plate, come up, and then attach above, right, which is going to take up a pretty good amount of space, all right? So then I'm going to tie a slip knot at the top, all right, and then this is going to come down, this is going to be up on the other side, so that's going to give me enough room to be able to go through full range of motion and be able to get plates on and off easily. All right, so I'm going to be using a simple slip knot on both sides, on the side of the rope, on the side of the cord holding the plates, and on the side of the cord that I'm going to be pulling from. So if you're not familiar with a slip knot, all right, I'm going to try to do this on camera. Here, I'm looping around in front, all right, and then I'm taking the rope behind, it's kind of like tying a tie. Then I'm going to come up through this hole, and then I'm coming back through that hole that I just created on the other side, all right? Pull it through, and now you've got a slip knot that will slide down and tighten on whatever you have it on, but it's super easy to loosen up. There you go. Now let's talk handle for my lat pull down. And if you guessed another lifting strap, all right, then you win the big prize. So I took a figure 8 lifting strap, all right, and all I did was took another slip knot, all right, at the top, and I just knifed through, all right, just knifed through my lifting strap through here, all right, and that creates a nice little handle for me. If you don't have a pair of figure 8 lifting straps, a towel would work just fine as well. If you've got a thick, solid piece of PVC pipe, you could, I'm assuming, slide that through and use that as more of a wider grip. Just make sure it's not a thin piece of PVC pipe that could potentially snap and break on you. Just make sure it's something super thick, all right? But tighten that down, all right? And now I've got a handle for my lat pull down. All right, so now for a quick recap of my DIY lat pull down. At the top here, I've got my 1-inch Spudding lifting strap, all right? I got that wrapped around the bar. I've got a carabiner, all right, attached to the lifting strap. I've got a second carabiner, all right, attached to that one, and then my pulley. The second carabiner is one that's gonna make it straight this direction, and it's going to allow for just a little bit more swivel. Now, hindsight 2020, I wish I would, instead of getting a fixed pulley, I should have got a swivel pulley. They're basically the same price, and that way I could have actually not needed this second carabiner right here. But luckily I had this just laying around anyway, so it didn't really cost me anything extra to set it up this way. So, lifting strap, carabiner, pulley here. All right, I've got my paracord here. We got my figure 8 lifting strap for my handle. And then down here at the bottom, all right, I've got a second, or a third, I guess, third carabiner here. And I've just got the paracord looped down through the plate. All right, and it's just looped around itself and attached to that carabiner there. All right, so all told, I spent $5 on this piece of paracord, and I ended up with 50 feet, which is way more than I even needed, but I got a little bit extra now. All right, spent $5 on one of these carabiners here, spent $7 on the pulley. That lifting strap already had, this lifting strap already had, and then one of the carabiners already had. So all told, I'm in for less than 20 bucks. Now obviously, depending on what you already have access to from carabiners and a pulley, and maybe some cord or some lifting straps. Again, for the one lifting strap, you could use a towel in place of it. But depending on what you already have, maybe you're in for 20 bucks, maybe you're in for 30 bucks, but it's a super easy DIY. It took me literally probably 20 minutes tops. That's even with trying to do some of the filming in between to set this whole thing up. And I've got a DIY lat pull down now that works great. It's easy to set up. One of the things I really like about this setup is it's super easy to slide this thing out of the way. All right, so if you're doing multiple exercises within your rack, all right, you can hit your set, slide it out of the way. When it's time for your next set, all right, you can pop it over, set it back up, and then boom, you're rolling again. And then the last thing that I want to mention, that I always like to mention when it comes to any kind of DIY project in the weight room, make sure that you're being safe with how you're building things. For instance, make sure that the pulley that you get, the carabiners that you use are going to be able to withhold the weight limit that you're going to put on them. All right, so you don't want to get a pulley that's this pulley's load rated for 420 pounds. You don't want to get a pulley that's load rated for 55 pounds and then load up, 90, 135, 180 pounds on your lat pull down, right? And then have something snap, and then you can end up really, really hurting yourself. And that's it. That's how I put together a DIY lat pull down with one quick trip to Lowe's and about 15-20 minutes of tinkering around. Now, obviously, I know this isn't going to work for everyone. It's not the most aesthetically pleasing setup, but really quick, really easy to do. And especially if you already have some of this material laying around your gym or laying around your house, you might even be able to pull this off cheaper than what I did. And finally, I'm going to leave links down in the description for all the materials that I used, but also to my complete guide on HortonBarbell.com that takes you through step by step exactly all the steps that I went through to put this thing together. And I'll even put some links down to my daily workouts that I post Sunday night through Thursday night for each day of the week. And then finally, if you were looking for a sports performance program for football, basketball, baseball, a bunch of different sports, or if you want a lifting program for yourself to help you stay healthy and look great at the beach, I'll leave links down there for that as well. And thanks for watching.